So it all still works. I'm going to turn down my dissipation now because it's a bigger box. So let's say it dissipates less. And so you can see now it's starting to make like a nexus right there. So by changing the size of this, this also means I have to change a lot of the parameters that made up my fluids in the first place. So like for my emitter, I'm probably going to emit more fluids per second just so I can get a thicker, more voluminous cloud. So there we go. Woohoo! So they're generating out, and you can see it is generating. It's giving me this volume. It's pretty cool seeing the little particles kind of generate that. I'll rewind it. So you can see, yeah, there he goes. It's like it's picking up kind of in the way we want it to. I like the tendril kind of effect that's happening. I want that to be a little bit more voluminous as it's pulling through my fluid. So I'm going to go in here and look at my density, and I'm going to look at my tension to see how much tension I can bring with these. Maybe make them a little bit more tense, and maybe turn up the force of the tension. So I'm going to turn off these particles too, because I don't really need to see them. I just want to see what they're doing. And turn down the turbulence for right now. Let's just turn down this noise even. So I'm going to say I want to diffuse this a little bit. And you can also scale your density for everything like that. And I'm going to bring my tension down just probably a lot, just so they make streams. And I like how that looks. That looks pretty cool. I think that looks a lot better too. So it's making my real big kind of tension ball, and let's say it dissipates maybe a little bit quicker. So this is still going around here. There we go. And that looks really good. Now the other thing that I have, and I just got this based off of density, I could put this to Y values or something like that. Say we do X. Alright. So now it's based off of the X values. And I can also play with the transparency of my actual fluid. If I put this all the way back down here, you'll see that my fluid, I can change so I'm not even adding more fluid, I'm just changing the opacity of the fluid that I have. And you can also do a glow intensity in here, and you can set a drop off shape, like you can do it you can set the edge of the drop off. So I could do this for like Y and change the edge of the drop off. You can also do this you can use the grid itself, or you can do X negative, X, Y. You can do double cones, and you'll see there's my double cone value. So things like that. And I'm just gonna, so that's kind of what I want to do with this. And it's kind of generating the way that I want. I like how it's generating right now. Let's go to my fluid emitter 1. And I want to say I want to add like 60 a second. So there we go. Now that's kind of this big thing. Go back here. Let's turn up that opacity just a little bit. And let's turn down the scale of my density some. And I don't like how that flickers with the light. So let's just do it to density. Alright. So you could do it constant, but I will do it to do center gradient too. I can do fuel, but I don't have any fuel that's being driven into this. Now, if you were actually emitting fuel, now you could set up fuel, and fuel works like you think it would work. It basically it starts to bring in fuel that you're adding to your fluid, almost like fire or things of that nature. All right, so I've got my, this is at 60. Let's put this one at like 80 and see what it does. Let's rewind it. Yeah. That's looking better. So I think we're gonna do some higher emissions on these guys. So boom. It's kind of got that nice thing going on. I'm gonna go back to my fluid shape. Now you can actually turn off, if you look in display right here, you can turn off some of the other things if you don't want to see it. So you can turn off the particles. You can come in here and turn off the boundary. So you can say bounding box. You could say none and just have this. And this is probably a more integrated way to look at this, is being able to look at it like this. And I'm going to change the color back to something more traditional. Let's say we do like a really light white, and this one's going to be blue, but really, really light. So my fluids look like they're pretty good, actually. I like how they're generating, newer fluids are being generated, and that all looks like it's pretty gravy. And I'm going to go back in here and look at the contents details. So I've got some content details in here, so I'm going to turn down like my tension. And if we turn up our tension, we can see how tense these things stay together and how they pull, and then the force of the tension and how it actually kind of grabs and globs together. Turn up the noise a little bit more, make it a little bit noisier. And my diffusion, I'm just going to bring my diffuse up just so it's a little bit softer. So from this, and you can see from your angles, your voxels will look really good, and some angles they'll look really bad. This all goes back to when we go to our actual fluid. This all goes back to what this base resolution is at. So I'm going to turn my base resolution up to 50. Rewind it, play it back. It's going to be really super slow because it's really really high resolution right now. But this will be closer to what our finished result will look like. You can see how my fluid is kind of sticking together, and it's got that really big puffiness to it, which is probably a little bit too much. I think that's a little bit too much. Looks like pieces of cotton candy floating at each other, which is weird. Flying cotton candy. Not where I thought I'd be going, right? So let's say that we turn down our tension. Turn this down. And go back in. If this is down, let's go and let's just half of this. So let's say 25. Yeah, 25 is giving me enough to where I can see it, but then also be able to see how it's gonna look. Now, if you're doing this and you're really making this into like a tornado type of thing, I think that actually right now this is the dissipation, the diffusion rather, is too high, so it looks really. Let's say 0.005, and yeah. Now, just like we cashed out our particles, you can come to fluids and come here and say in cache, and come back to your dynamics and look at your fluids, and you'll see you have a fluid in cache, and you can create a cache with your fluids. And what's really nice is that once you cache your fluids, you'll get faster playback. So you can cache them just like you would caching your particles. Now the two are separate from each other. The in particle cache for fluids is separate from your particle cache for your particles. So they're two separate files that are written inside your Maya folders. And your Maya folder is wherever your project's at. It tries to write it in that Maya project folder. If you don't have a project folder set up, it'll try to put it in the default My Documents folder for Maya. And I can see this is looking pretty good. I've got like this really, once again, tumultuous kind of, expression of all this. I want to clean this up and make it a lot softer, because it does look very thick and cloudy, and I need to get this down to being more of a wispy kind of feel. This looks almost like a cloud explosion almost. So keeping that in mind as I get my pieces set up here inside of Maya. And I've only generated out like 86 frames or so. So it gets really slow when you're trying to do these particles and your fluids and everything else. Fluids take up a lot of resources in Maya, which is why many people now, there's other systems that are better at doing kind of these pyroclastic clouds and these volume clouds, voxel clouds. Another one of my favorite programs uses voxels, which is 3D Coat. It actually is a voxel sculpting program. I'm going to escape and hold on this, and then let's just see what we got going on here. That actually looks pretty freaking cool, but I'm going to put my frames down to 112 because that's what I generated in my cache. So I can see now that's what was being generated out. Go to my fluids, and I can still play with. So this is why I cache a little bit of it, because you can still play with your how this is seen a little bit more. So I could come back in here and let's say we dissipate faster. Now you'll notice dissipation didn't change because dissipation has to be simulated. So I have to be able to go back in here and I can create a new cache, replace existing. So now with my new dissipation value, it will run through itself. So some things that are more like some little things are visual, you can go in there and make changes to it and be able to see what it looks like as it's happening. And some things you have to go back and recache to be able to see those things. So just know that. And honestly, that is how we're going to get this set up. Now, it's up to you how you play with your tornado and get it set up. We've got one more piece of this that we want to actually put together, and that's to add a little bit more volume, kind of movement to our clouds. And other than that, we are almost done with this inside of Maya. So when we come back, we'll actually look at one of the last pieces of this to get this kind of working, and we'll do that in our next video.